today I'm so excited to say this is session or episode number 1 of Rise in Radiance. And today I am super excited on this inaugural episode to have with you a truly amazing woman, Marsh Engle. Hello, Marsh. Welcome.
Hi.
Today.
So happy to be here.
Oh, good. I am going to gush all over you as I do this introduction, because Marsh really, to me, embodies what it means to be a radiant leader, to be a radiant person, to have that essence around her that just exudes radiance. And when you hear me read just a few of the highlights of her bio, I think you'll get why I believe this. So Marsh is an acclaimed visionary pioneer. She truly is. She's a leading authority in the field of women's success. And I love this. She bridges creativity, spirituality, and self-esteem. And it's a beautiful blend that really is powerful. And I know Marsh as a coach, a mentor, a friend, and have had the privilege of working with her now maybe 2 years or a year and a half, I think. So she's also a multi-published author of a book series called Amazing Woman. We'll get into that a little bit today with some new projects that she's working on. She has shared the stage with big names like Marianne Williamson and Don Miguel Ruiz. And one of the most fascinating things about her that I want to share with you is she has started her own nation. How many of us know someone who started a nation? Marsh, this is amazing. It's called, of course, Amazing Woman Nation. And it's really powered by her media company. And here's what she is about. And this is really, I think, the essence of what comes out for me regarding Marsh, is she is all about enhancing the lives of women by designing lifestyle content, career and business training programs, as well as products that will then impact millions of us women, men, and in the world. So, wow, Marsh, you are truly an amazing, radiant woman, and I'm so excited to have you here today. So
thank you. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yay, great.
And you are a radiant woman.
Thank you. I'm excited, so excited for our conversation today. And that's really what I want this to be about, is a conversation. We've had a lot of face-to-face conversations. Now we're going to do it virtually. But yeah, like we're sitting here together, two amazing gals, just having some good old girl talk.
And I love the conversation though, because Rise in Radiance, the title of your podcast, is exactly where women are today. We're rising in our radiance. So it's a conversation that the time has really come for. And I'm thrilled to be on on your first inaugural podcast,
yes,
talking about a subject I absolutely love, and that you have spent years researching and studying so that we can understand it a little more when we step out into the world, into our passions and our purpose.
Yes. Thank you, Marsh. Thank you for that intro too. I appreciate it. And so we've talked about the format. I'm kind of that, right brain, left brain gal. And I've got some awesome questions for us to spark that conversation today. So if you're game, let's dive right in.
Good. I'm ready.
So my first question is, can you remember the moment when you felt a calling to create or develop, one of these amazing pieces of work that you're working on? And you might want to speak to something recent or in the past, but really kind of taking us into that moment in your life when you felt that calling and what that was like for you.
Wow. There's 3 distinctive times that come to mind when you ask that question. The first one is something I've spoken a lot about. That's leaving my career and walking out on a journey that was really an investigation and a study and a research of the amazing woman. I wanted to know who she is, because even though I had accomplished on a material level, I had accomplished what a lot of people thought was important. And I guess at the time I thought was very important. But over time I learned that it wasn't at all important. And what was really important was understanding my inner workings, my inner connection as an amazing woman. So I stepped out and I literally called it a search for the amazing woman.
Beautiful.
And I started interviewing women, every woman that I met. I wanted to know, where did her passion stem from? Where did she find that deep connection within her? What did she feel her life was about? And that led me to meet and interview and speak with some truly amazing women. And I wrote a series of books about them. And, I think that was a big pivotal transformational moment for me to really call or really discover what was my calling, or what is my calling. So if I know you talk a lot about our soul-centered calling, our soulful purpose, and I believe that moment, and it happened actually when my mom died. My mom was a big, very influential in my life because of the level of love she brought to me. And when she died, when she passed, I felt the call to search for the amazing woman. And I really had felt in my heart that she was saying to me, it's your time. It's your time to discover who you are.
Wow.
And I did not know what all that meant, but it led me to write the books, interview women, and then establish Amazing Woman's Day, which ended up being a 10-year movement.
Wow.
That then grew into the next level of my kind of an awakening to my calling. I was in Maui, sitting on the beaches, and I was really in deep contemplation. I wondered, and I don't mean this to sound morbid, but I'd wondered, had I already completed the work that I was supposed to do? I had Amazing Woman had been very successful all over the world and had touched a lot of lives. The movement itself really had a life of its own. So when I say the movement touched lives, I really mean that the movement and all the women within the movement had gone out to touch a lot of lives and create a lot of transformation. And I really, sitting on the beaches of Maui, I wondered, was I complete with what I came here to achieve or to give? What was my legacy complete? And the answer was no. And it was called to lead is what came to me. Called to lead. And I didn't, as I prepared and thought about the interview today, I thought about that statement, called to lead. And I created, of course, a program and the 1 Million Called movement it was just an extension of Amazing Woman's Day, and then 1 Million Called, how are we stepping up in our purpose? And today, though, as I was preparing for the interview, I really thought about, I think it was saying to me, you're called to lead. You are called to lead. So remember how we talk often about redefining ourselves as our calling fails and starts to expand and starts to become more clear to us, and we evolve into it. Into our calling. I've always felt that our calling is much more advanced than we are. We're actually being called to step into something bigger than what we can see ourselves to 100%. Be. So as I was preparing for our time together today, I think I was really being called to lead, and what would that be?
Okay.
So from that, carrying on.
The journey continues.
Then it evolved through me to Amazing Woman Nation.
Okay.
And what is Amazing Woman Nation? And Amazing Woman Nation is really a platform where leaders can join together to share their greatest insights, their greatest talents, their greatest, we could call them gifts, but their greatest abilities and capacities, so that we together can lock arms and rise together in our power to create a massive difference in the world. And you have a home, have a community, have a platform that you can go and see yourself in each other. And that's what I think is so very important. Where we are today is really about finding that collaboration, finding that community, and finding that sense of relationship with ourselves, but finding that also through the relationship with others.
Beautiful. I love so much of what you said, and a couple things really jump out. And when women, we talk about your calling, right? And it can come to women in different ways. And I know for me, and it's all, mine was maybe similar to you, and that something happened. Your mom's passing happened, and that was like a wake up of sorts. Or you got that little hit, like it's time to, to listen, to look. And so you got into that place of inquiry and you followed that stirring, but then you didn't stop there. Right. And it's it sounds like, and if I, from what I'm hearing, you kept in that place of inquiry, right? You accomplished the first thing, and you're like, well, is that it? No, then you were open to something else unfolding. You followed that, and then something else unfolds. For me, that is just a beautiful example of what it means to be a radiant leader in your life, and that you have this openness and this trust, and you're following the stirring, the insight, the aha, and letting it unfold little by little, and being okay with not knowing where it's going to take you.
I think that's what you just said is the real key. Most people, I've spoken on a lot of stages. I've done a lot of broadcasts. I've done a lot of interviews. I've done a lot of all this. And so people know me as that, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to take us back. And the fact is that when A Search for the Amazing Woman came to me, I was not a published author. I had never spoken on stages. I had never even imagined myself, Christine, never imagined myself. Matter of fact, they put a mic in front of me and I froze. I was scared, terrified.
Right.
My voice was really blocked, honestly.
Okay.
And so when I talk about stepping into and evolving into our purpose or into our calling, it's so important for all of us, including myself today, as we launch Amazing Woman Nation and all the published products that are coming through that and all the voices that are being lifted in that. I have to really remember that I don't have to know everything.
Right.
I don't have to be necessarily completely feel qualified or even prepared.
Right.
Saying yes to the calling is what will allow us to open up to maybe the education and research. I think that finding our calling or answering our calling is more, really, it's not finding as much as it is hearing it and answering it, being willing to say yes to it, even when I could not imagine myself. I've told this story a lot. I know you've heard me say it when I first got, my first book arrived and it had my name on the cover. It sounds almost embarrassing to say. It's very vulnerable for me to say that when I picked up the book and I saw my name on the front of it, I went over to my agent's home, got in the car, drove over to my agent's house, and I said, look, it has my name on the cover. And she said, of course, you're the author. I said, you knew that, and the publisher knew that, but I didn't know that.
Right.
I did not see myself as a published author. I did not see myself as a speaker on stages. I did not see myself as a leader.
Right.
And we really have to expand into that, into those definitions and into those new ways, and whatever it is that you're being called to answer.
Right.
You don't have to know all the answers. What you have to know is your willingness to answer the call.
Absolutely. And you and I've had some conversations on this too, and that when we do step into answering that calling and we start getting feedback from people, right? Like, that talk was amazing, or you so inspired me, or you so, positively impacted my day. And you don't, I think it, like, we have our intellect and then we have our body. And what I've noticed for myself, and, tell me if this is the same for you, is it takes a while for it to really be embodied. We start intellectually getting the feedback from people on we've crossed a threshold. We are now the author. We are now the speaker. We are now the one who has created the foundation, whatever that is. But we haven't really embodied that expanded, self yet. And
I love what you're saying, because we actually have to keep going to embody it. Think about it. If we stop at the intellect, we can easily get caught in the ego.
Yes.
Of the experience, the ego of what we're creating, or the ego of what our dream is, or the ego of what our ideas are. And, a strong, powerful, healthy ego is important to us. We know that.
Yes.
But if we get caught there and we don't fully embody it to where we get a bigger picture idea, the big shift that happened for me was when I realized that all that I was creating, or all that was being created through me, had nothing to do with me. Other than I was going to be expanding along with everybody into what it was. And it's a bit of a deep conversation, but the truth is when we learn that everything that we're doing is to make a difference in this world, we're really at our highest level of contribution. And that to me is what embodiment is.
Right.
I'm embodied in the idea that whatever's moving through me, I'm leaving a legacy behind. I'm making a difference. I think that when one of the aha moments of my calling also came when I was sitting with Michelle Obama and Oprah Winfrey at the United States of Women in Washington, D.C. That was about 2 years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago now. And I realized that Amazing Woman programs had made a big impact in the lives of adult women, but we'd done very little for our young women. So that's when that aha moment came to me then, is when I really got that if we could merge our voices and bring our message to our young women and create a difference in the lives of our future generations, then I really felt embodied in the work that I was doing. I felt as though there was something that I was not just for the moment saying or creating, but something that would be here long after I was gone. And that's really where I think our embodiment comes from. And I think it's where many of us are today, and many of us are looking to become. Everything that we're doing is making a long-term difference in the lives of people.
Yes. We're slowly steering that ship in a different direction.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, I'm all about rating achievement. And again, bringing this new paradigm around achievement to women everywhere. And I have my definition that I've created, and I'm curious, when you think of radiant achievement, what definition comes to mind for you?
I think what we just spoke about, to me, radiant achievement is that embodiment of being the fullness of all that I can be. And that's all that I am, all of the, allowing my voice to be spoken clearly and expressive, allowing myself to step aside at times and let a higher vision come through, let myself be surprised and in awe, let myself be not needing to know all the answers, allowing myself to collaborate in ways that bring me closer to myself, to the truth of myself, as well as, and I should say not only the truth of myself, but the trust of myself, and also then collaborating with others. I see that as two different things. Whenever I am able to truly embody and trust what I see about myself and who I know myself to be, that allows me to walk into the room and collaborate with others. And I think that we as women, when we begin to see that truth about how truly, incredibly powerful we are, we begin to trust that, that's when true collaboration will happen. And I think that that is radiance. I mean, when you think about a woman that walks into the room and knows who she is, wow, that woman's radiant. Wow, that woman, who is that? That woman knows who she is. She knows her power. She knows her strength. And I used to look at afar at those women and think, what is that about her? And I want more of that in me. Well, the truth is, it's all in us all the time.
Exactly.
It wasn't like I had to go out and fix it or go out and find it or make something happen. It was really about recognizing that radiance that was flowing through me, that power that's flowing through me. And then it's not, of course, we all know by now that it's not power over someone, it's power within ourselves. It's that powerful connection with our truth and our creativity. So I think for me, radiance is also something that we have to maintain. And that would be giving ourselves the right internal environment and external environment to nurture our radiance.
Absolutely.
So that would be things like the right food. I'm big on meditation. I think movement is super important. I just came from New York City, where I did a lot of walking, because in New York, you really don't drive anywhere. You walk everywhere, or you cab everywhere. So I think that movement made a difference in my creativity, made a difference in my clarity. I could feel it, and my words were different. I think movement, meditation, great nutrition, great supplements, whatever it is that our body's calling for. Rest is way underrated. I think that we tend to overwork still and over effort. I think rest, that would be an internal. And then our external would be things like, who are we surrounding ourselves with? Are they people that uplift us and motivate us? Are they people that can see us?
Yes.
Even sometimes before we can see ourselves. I had many good mentors and many good coaches that could see me way before I was willing to accept the truth of who I am. And that's a great thing to have.
Yes.
Someone that can reflect and mirror to us who we are. So to me, that's also nurturing our radiance. It's allowing.
Beautiful.
So there is a responsibility. One is, knowing who we are, but the other is taking really good nurturing care of ourselves. So our radiance becomes a natural, innate ability or capacity that moves through us. And I kind of get excited about that conversation. I think that's a great one.
It is. Well, and I know as I'm sitting here listening to you talk, it was a huge lesson in my journey of awakening my radiance. And I love when you use the word embody. That has been, if I look back at the last 3 years of my life, that has been a huge shift for me, is because I lived so much in my head, and I was so disconnected with my feelings and what my body was telling me and what was speaking to me. Like, I kept pushing my intuition down. I kept doubting it. I kept, I could go into a hundred different stories here, but when I made that switch to really embody who I was, right? To embody what I was feeling, to embody the callings, to be connected in, like, I'm walking around with my own best friend. And that made such a difference in my life, because instead of looking externally for all these answers and insights and direction, I brought it into me, and that new connection. Wow. Joy.
So good.
Freedom.
Yes.
It's
where it's all happening.
Yeah.
It's, we talk about leadership a lot. And as you were describing awakening your radiance, what was coming to mind is really connecting with your inner leader. And creating really just a powerful relationship with your inner leader, so that your inner leader then becomes the one that informs your external actions, which is your external leader.
And that word can be scary for a lot of women. It to just, follow that train of thought for a minute is, and I know you and I have had conversations about this, that, if we look at all, women of all walks of life, we think of leader and we think of somebody in a position of power, someone, whether it's in a corporate environment, a nonprofit environment. I think that might be a tendency for women to start thinking that way. And they may say, they may be the woman running the home, right? Managing the budget, the vacations, the kids, the car. And they may say, oh, I'm not a leader. I'm just a whatever. And truly, I know one of my passions and visions is to help women, and I think you're on definitely the same way, is help women really see they are powerful leaders. And the more we really accept and own that responsibility in our own lives, then we are able then to go out and do whatever work that is for this lifetime, to be a leader to positively impact and influence other people.
Well, if we look at, and I'm back again, like reflecting back when Amazing Women's Day and the Amazing Woman program first came to me, it was also what came to me, Christine, was feminine leadership. So in 1999, if you think back, leadership was very much what we've been taught, which was leadership over people and leadership even of people. And I'd like us to think of feminine leadership being one that is, I'm a leader that knows what she needs, knows what she stands for, knows the power of her voice, knows the ability of her creativity, really respects what it takes for her to nurture and care for that. So no matter what role we're in, whether we decide to be a full-time mother that is, I call one of my daughter-in-laws stays at home with our grandson, and I call her a conscious mompreneur, because she's developing her business at home while she cares for her son and my grandson. But whether we decide to stay at home, and which I did for 3 years, when I had my sons young, I was a leader, though, a leader of my life, a leader of the decisions I was making, a leader of the choices and the way that I took action. So I think that we need to redefine what you're, as you're speaking of this, we need to redefine it. I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, I was thinking about a title for a new program I was doing, and I called one of the clients that I mentor, which was interesting that I would pick her to call. And I used the word leader in the title, and she said, it sounds too masculine. And of course, I went about the business of using leader in the title because I thought, wait a minute, if it's sounding too masculine to someone,
right,
then we need to redefine.
yes.
We need to redefine what leadership means. And as you're doing with the word achievement.
Achievement, exactly.
And radiant achievement. These are
right.
2 words that are very balanced when you use them together.
Mm-hmm.
Feminine leadership, very balanced when we use them together. So I get kind of fired up about, because I like kind of breaking through any kind of ceiling of definitions.
Right.
Bit of a rebel in that way, that if there's a word that's being used like leadership, and we're kind of maybe timid about using it next to our name, just like maybe when I was on Maui and I heard called to lead, it's like, this must be talking about a program I'm going to be doing for other people. No, it's like you're being asked to embody leadership. What does that mean to you, Marsh? So I think that it's time for that conversation, because look at our world complexion right now with women in government. Women, powerful women taking the lead.
Yes, 100%.
Entrepreneurship. Look at the number of women that are opening businesses. We're being called to lead, and we're stepping up to it. Look at the women that are, this isn't necessarily. Not everyone may not agree with March on Washington, but the fact is that when I went 2 years ago, there were women and men linking arms together, and we were leading together to create a better environment for our future generations. So I think that it's time for us to really consider what it is to lead. And
I love that.
It means for us where we are in our life at that time.
Beautiful. Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly. And one of the words you brought up a couple times is the word power. And as you know, in Radiant Achievement, I teach powers that are innate powers we have inside of us, and we are using them to varying degrees, and I'm about activating and elevating that. So what would you say for yourself was the most significant and possibly the most surprising inner power that you discovered, or maybe it was a shift that you made that supported you in pursuing your calling?
I was thinking about this morning, and I thought, what it is? It's that I was brought up to think that powerful people always knew all the answers. My upbringing said that if you're really powerful and if you really want to, leave your footprint, you better know all the answers. And I've shifted that completely. I believe that the person that's in power, the one that really can stand in a strength beyond all others, is the one that's willing to be open to receive and to learn and to grow from what others are saying. Now, that doesn't mean we get influenced by what others, so that we become the thinker of what others think, but it means that we're open to other ideas. We're open to new insights. It can happen from our intuition. It can easily happen by tuning into our intuition and being open to receive in that way. It can also be like you and we're open to receive right now. Where I don't need to know all the answers and you don't need to know all the answers, and we've got a great exchange going here where we can really learn and grow from each other. So I think that my inner power, I don't know what it would be called, receptivity would be an inner power. Beautiful. To be really open and allow my heart to listen deeply to what's being said by others, so that I can hear underneath the words. I have greater compassion for others when I listen underneath their words rather than necessarily what they're saying. When I gain greater compassion for myself, I can find greater compassion for others. So by listening to what I'm really saying and what's my inner dialogue speaking to me, and is it kind or is it not? And find find the story that's being driven there. So I think that receptivity, something
Beautiful.
new, being open to a new idea, being open to a new definition, being open to, and I was talking to my daughter-in-law the other day, she's on my mind because I'm gonna go see my grandson later this afternoon, and she's on my mind, but I said, I wonder what my greatest strength is. You know, I was just thinking about how to define the new work that I'm doing, and she said, I think communication is a strength of yours. And but I think that underneath that is the power of listening.
Ah,
Communicate when you can hear inward.
yes.
You know, you're in tune with your intuition, you're in tune with your truth, and
Right.
then you find the language to communicate it outward.
Right.
So I think that we as women, our inner powers, I believe in the next year and 2 years and onward, we're going to begin to define our inner powers in a much more evolved way, where they're very natural and innate. It's almost hard sometimes to think about. Let me think, what is an inner power? Because they're so innate to us. They're so natural to us.
Right.
And I believe that we're going to start to find inner powers that we didn't even know were inner powers that we've been using all along. That really, when we amplify them and accelerate them, and like you said, activate them, we're going to be on fire.
Yes, I have 7 that I teach that I think a lot of women are going to be, you know, and I know it was for me, you know, when I kind of stood back and I reflected on the journey that I was on and my lessons learned, I was able, then I saw the powers. I didn't start with the powers and then use them. I did my work and I followed, you know, by stumbling and bumbling and, you know, trying different things, I found this new path. And then I was able to look back and see the powers that I had engaged to get me to where I was. And so,
I love that. I love that. Kind of the same thing as what I'm saying here is you did not need to know before you started.
Right.
And I think it's like, if there were something I would underline in what we're talking about today, it's that, you know, let's just go for it. We don't need to know.
You don't need to know. And I appreciate and thank you for what you shared with the receptivity. And I definitely can see in my life how, you know, I went through my college education, started in corporate America, and it was really about knowing, right? Like you went to classes, you had your, you know, my formal training in, you know, programming. So it was all about, you needed to know, you were supposed to know. And, you know, so this whole shift of starting on these inner, you know, listening to whether it's a soul calling or listening to that calling, you can't get there from that place of knowing, because it's an unwritten journey. So I think for me, I found the way that I was able to do it with grace and ease is I had to be receptive. I had to be open to that perfect phone call, giving me just the next tidbit of information, or that one conversation that all of a sudden opened my eyes to something I hadn't even thought of, or, you know, help me navigate a journey that maybe I was fumbling around a little bit too much. So, you know, that for me, when you talk receptivity, it's being receptive to those messages and the help and the assistance that is coming from people that are in my circle that are here to help support me.
Exactly. And if we're going to innovate, you know, as you were speaking, the word innovation kept coming up. If we're going to innovate new answers to our life, or to our lifestyle, or to our ways of working with one another, or, you know, I mean, you could take it on and on and on.
Right.
How we create business, how we create health solutions, everything that we are dreaming or wishing to create really is an innovation. And in order to innovate, we really do have to let go of everything we thought we knew.
Yes.
Because we're going to be working from the old all the time. And I love the idea of being in awe and shock and surprise.
Right.
I wrote a post the other day just about surprise, because I love the feeling of surprise when an answer comes to me, or a connection comes to me, or I overhear something through a conversation, even like what we're doing today. And it really inspires me. And I walk away from that feeling uplifted to the place where new can come in, new answers, new ideas.
Right.
So I think that it's an undervalued power, perhaps,
Yes.
receptivity. And it is, I'm not saying I'm there 100%, but I'm sure there are a lot more than I was yesterday.
Right. It's a muscle.
Because it's something we have to, definitely a muscle we have
we're
to
building it.
learn.
So my next question is, how has your, and I know you spoke to it a little bit, so if there's something additional you'd like to add at this point, how has your calling changed over time, and has it taken you in surprising directions or in your life?
Oh, yeah, it absolutely taken me in surprising directions. So we could look at the tangible, which would be like, I never imagined speaking in front of thousands of people.
Mm-hmm.
I never imagined broadcast media. I never imagined all of that, none of that.
Wow.
But the biggest surprise is, I think, the understanding that a calling is something we have to grow into. It's always something that I'm stretching to grow into. And for me, that's the biggest surprise about saying yes to my calling.
Okay, beautiful.
It's that I really, every day, I mean, Christine, every single day, I find new things about myself.
Yes.
I'm like, how would I have not known that before now? It's like,
right.
I find new things. And then I find when you find new things about yourself, you also find ways that can provide a solution or an answer to someone. You find your capacities. I think in this new year, we're sitting at the beginning of a new year. I don't know when this is going to broadcast, but today we're sitting at the beginning of a new year. And I think our inner healing abilities are going to really be amplified, learning that about ourselves, learning how the power of our words are so very impactful in creating our futures.
Yes.
Learning about how we can create new mindsets within ourselves that will lead us to new possibilities. Well, I just say, for me, I think dancing with our calling is the most fun ever because we are continually learning.
Well, and you've jazzed me up a little bit here because what you just sparked in me is this, it really does not end unless we choose to have it stop, right? Like when you talked about earlier, you were in Maui thinking, is this it? Am I done? And the one thing that I've learned in my journey is my potential, my vessel, whatever it is unlimited. And I, in this physical form, am the one who's controlling how much I'm going to allow to expand or to keep, at a certain level. So in my late 50s here, I am more excited about the possibilities for my life and all the women that I'm working with and the men I'm working with, because I believe we can literally like rewrite our life every day by being open and receptive and having that mindset of, I don't know my fullest potential. So let's just
play
have fun with it.
Let's play with it.
Let's
not make it too serious. Not make it. I mean, we can take it seriously, meaning that it's meaningful. Yes. But it's not something that has to be drama. It does not have to be a struggle. It does not have to be hard.
Right.
You and I talk a lot about this, about how we can really let the discovery come to us and through us rather than having to force it. And then I think the main thing we have to remember as women is we do not have anything in us we have to fix.
Correct.
We're so, we're so, came from at least I did, came from a upbringing and a culture that said there was so much wrong about us. Oh. And I can hardly sit down right now and say that. It's like I want to stand up and say, there is nothing wrong with us. We do not have to fix it. What we have to do is honor it and value it and put it into action and recognize it and celebrate it. And all the things that we thought were out of whack, we've been told, we have a new book coming out that you're part of, Rise, Amazing Woman, Rise. And within that, I talk a lot about how my early years in business and the things that were natural and innate to me, like my intuitive abilities and my, higher creativity and the things that, many of us Many, many, many of us have as our nature that we had to stuff away.
Yes.
And now it's like I walk out on the stage, I'm leading with it. You know, that's
Right.
my distinction.
Right.
So I think that it's about looking at those things we judged ourselves and thought we had to fix, pull them out of the closet or out of the basement, wherever they are, dust them up, shine them up.
Yes.
Really play with them.
Love
and
it.
have a great time with it. And that's where our new discoveries are coming.
Yes. Well, let me add something to that, because it's something, in addition to maybe needing to fix something, it's also what I received was, oh, why would you want to do that? That's a crazy idea. Right.
Oh, I had that so many times.
So
everything, it's like, I've laughed and said that when someone says to me, that's a crazy idea, no one will ever take you serious.
Yes.
I literally say, thank you. And they're like, did you hear what I said? And I'm like, yeah, but you don't get it. If you don't agree with me, it means I'm on such a cutting edge on something.
Right.
It's really needed in the world.
Right.
And so I'm going to do it big time. Feminine success and feminine leadership was exactly that. When Amazing Women's Day was first launched, and my advisors around me, and I'm going to say a lot of the advisors that were around me that were negative about using feminine next to leadership were women. They weren't men. There were men that said it too, but it was really women said to me, no, it needs to be female leadership. I said, no, there's something about feminine leadership. And if I'm absolutely honest with you, Christine, when those two words came to me together, I did not completely understand what it was I was talking about. I had to grow into understanding. What does it mean to be a feminine leader? So I think that, we're kind of back to what we've always been talking about here, is that there's nothing to fix. Your good ideas, the ideas that others don't agree with, you're probably on such a cutting edge idea. I say go for it.
Yes.
I still have clients who'll call to me and say, I've got an idea. You're going to think I'm crazy. And I said, I doubt it. I doubt it. No matter what the idea, I doubt that I'm going to think you're crazy.
Right. That's our creativity. So you, and I know you've shared with me this story before when you were getting the no's, and that's a crazy idea. So let's dive into this question a little bit. What role has the power of commitment, which is one of the 7 powers of radiant achievement? What has that power of commitment meant to you and your journey of pursuing your callings?
Commitment is such an important, if you think about the word, what it really means to me is an anchoring in. It means an anchoring in to what you have decided or you're choosing or you feel called to stand for. And when many times, it doesn't matter how long I work with my clients in coaching, I bring them back all the time to, what do you really stand for? What are you willing to fight for? Fight the good fight, meaning you're willing to evolve the conversation. You're willing to study it and learn about it and expand upon it. What are you willing to stand for? What are you willing to fight for? What are you willing to use your voice for? And how committed are you? Because especially if I'm talking to any trailblazers out there, and I have a feeling I am, those of us that are pioneering, the chances are very likely not everyone is going to agree with what you're saying, ideal. And you've decided that I'm going to take a stand for this. I'm going to take a stand for feminine leadership, to where now we talk about feminine leadership, we don't even think anything about it. But back in 1999, that was a big stand to take.
Yes.
And who knows what the next stand, well, now I'm taking a stand for the feminine heart, being brought into the workplace. Probably have always taken a stand for that, but now I'm really very outspoken about taking a stand for that. So what are you willing to take a stand for in your commitment to your service, to the living of your purpose, to the living of your life, to the contribution you're making to other people, to the legacy that you're leaving behind? And I want us to all have that conversation with ourselves, no matter where we are in our career. Because having that level of commitment allows us to go out into the world, and when waves come at us, or when a strong wind comes by and wants to knock us down, when we're committed and anchor in to what we know we stand for, we're much more likely to stand still and strong. And I oftentimes think about the bamboo tree, that has these big, deep roots
Yes.
that are interactive with all the other, the other forest of bamboo trees. They're all underground. There's these big roots that are all interconnected, very collaborative,
Right.
and their support for one another. Very strong tree. It can bend. When the wind
Yes.
comes, it bends, but it does not lose its stature. So I
Yes.
think that we as women today, as feminine leaders today, as radiant achievers today,
Mhm.
remembering that commitment is such an important aspect of that, because we got to know who we are. We got to know what we stand for. We got to be willing to take a stand for it. We got to
Right.
be
And no one's going to hand it to us, right? I think that was one of my biggest lessons in the power of commitment, is that I had been looking for other people to give me permission, right?
or to validate us.
To
It's
validate me,
nice.
to say, I agree, go for it,
Yes,
because
it's
that's who
nice to
I
be
was
validated.
yes, as,
It feels good. But
yeah,
the only person that really matters is, are you validating oneself? Are
yes.
you saying, I may not, like I said, I didn't even understand what feminine leadership was, but I was willing to commit to knowing. I was
Mm-hmm.
willing to commit to learning. I was willing to commit to discovering it. And so that commitment was something that said, I don't know what this is, but I'm willing to discover it. The
Yes.
next level of commitment might be, I don't know how to speak this, but I'm willing to find a way
Right.
to communicate it. The
Right.
next level of commitment might be, I've never spoken on stages, but I might be a little wobbly, but I'm going to
I
go
mean,
for it. And I'm going
right.
to learn from
Right.
I'm going to learn from that opportunity to speak about it.
Right.
I've never been in broadcast media, but I'm going to get in front of the camera, or I'm going to get behind the mic and I'm going to experience it. I'm going to allow myself to find the commitment of new levels of
Mm-hmm.
confidence.
Right.
So commitment to me is something, it's a really deep relationship. I mean, the more we talk about it, we see it's a very intimate relationship with one's creativity and one's self-belief.
Yes. And would you say, I just had this hit, like I felt commitment in my body. And again, a lot of my journey has been really getting back into my body and really feeling the conviction, the commitment, the trust, whatever it was in my body. Would you say that you feel commitment in your body?
Oh, what's coming to mind as you ask that, it's when I was in Washington, D.C. at the March on Washington 2 years ago, and Alicia Keys was on stage speaking, and she spoke to me. She's speaking directly to me. She was, along with a million other women, people there. But she spoke directly to me, and she said, fire in our belly, feet on the ground. Fire in our belly, feet on the ground. And think about what that says to commitment. Feel that fire in your belly. Feel that creativity. Feel that calling. Feel that sense of purpose. Feel that sense of meaning. Feel that sense of value. And then, without any pause at all, put your feet on the ground. So I came back from Washington, D.C. all fired up. I mean, did lots of big conference calls. I was fired up. I promised to bring the energy of that day back into the hearts and the minds and the lives of women, and that weren't necessarily in D.C. or didn't attend one of the
Right.
marches throughout the world. And to me, that says exactly what you just asked. Do you feel it in your body?
Yes.
It's fire in our belly, feet on the ground. And that's the essence of that internal leadership, that internal fire,
Right.
that knows exactly who you are, knows exactly what you're meant to bring forth in the world, knows exactly your value, knows exactly your power, knows exactly, without any pause at all, the power of your voice to make a difference. That fire in your belly speaks it loud and clear.
It does.
Now we're about.
Are you listening, right? Are we listening to
Yes.
it?
Are we listening is the question. Yes.
Beautiful. Well,
sometimes yes, sometimes not so yes.
Right.
Yes.
Well, and it's not, and I like to tell my clients this all the time, it's that we're not on a linear, trajectory here. It's sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We take a huge leap forward and a step back. We're building muscles, we're removing layers, there's no, even with Radiant Achievement, I teach that it's not a slick 7-step process, right? It is, you're kind of feeling your way intuitively. You're taking in the information, you're feeling into, you're trusting, you're taking action. And it's this beautiful flowing cycle that happens. And again, kind of tying back to the commitment, like you're committed to letting it unfold, to taking the step, to learning the lesson, to doing it again, to hearing more, to acting more, to stepping out more. And that's a beautiful journey of achievement, of radiant achievement, and of leading your life.
And it's so often we think of commitment of being an external experience. And the way we're describing
Mm,
commitment today is from a very feminine point of view. It's like,
yes.
how committed am I to noticing my inner dialogue? How
Yes.
committed am I to noticing the conversations I have with others? How committed am I?
Yes.
And really paying attention to how very valuable your words are, how very valuable your
Right.
actions are, how very valuable your thoughts are, and all of that's part of your commitment to being your very
Right.
best, most
I love
amazing
how you,
self, or we could say your most radiant achiever.
yes, you're a radiant achiever. And I love how you, I don't think I've really thought about commitment to the degree that you described it today, where it is really, you can look at it from every facet, every layer of your life. There's a level of commitment to it. And that definitely very much that internal work, that internal journey that as radiant leaders and as radiant achievers is a important part of that journey, important power in the journey. So, Marsh, this has been fantastic. Do you have any, before I do the final wrap
Yes.
up, is there anything that you're being called to share that I have not asked you about yet today?
Oh gosh, I think that what's on my mind this morning, and as I prepared for the interview, was the word trust. And I think that
Mm,
where we're at a very pivotal moment of self-trust in the world as women. We have to really trust deep into our value. We have to trust deep into
mm,
what our contribution is. We have to trust that sometimes we think, I'm just one person. What difference could I make? Trust that
mm,
there is a big difference you're making. You're
mm.
influencing and impacting and inspiring beyond what you could possibly know. And that one of my favorite quotes is, right now, someone's listening and noticing how very valuable you are and the difference that you're making in their life. So let's just go there. I say,
Beautiful.
let's just go there.
Beautiful. Thank you. What a beautiful way to end our conversation today. So thank you, Marsh. I'm so grateful from seriously the bottom of my heart in every fiber of my being that we were able to have this time here together today to talk about your journey as a radiant leader and a radiant achiever, and certainly an amazing radiant woman. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so, for my listeners out there, I want to thank you for being part of this session today, this inaugural session. And I would love to stay connected with you beyond the podcast. You can go to my website, which is thechristinehoward.com, all one word. And I have a free gift for you there. You'll see it on my landing page. You can sign up and receive the free gift, and that's a great way for us to continue to stay connected together. And I know and suspect you would love to connect more with Marsh and hear more about her work in all her endeavors. You can find her online at Marsh Engle, MARSH Engle, ENGLE.com, or amazingwomannation.com. And she has a lot of great announcements out there for her upcoming books, and all the events that are just around the corner for her. So thank you for listening in. And Marsh, I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Very soon.
Okay.
Thank you.